In this video, we're going to do a review of the Sky 2 from our friends at Montech, this beautiful looking case. We're going to be doing thermal and acoustic testing, and then we're going to go over the overall build quality of the case. Then towards the end, we're going to go over my opinions of this case. And I'd love to get your feedback on that, so stay tuned for that. Without wasting any more time, let's get started. So right now, the only thing really making noise in my office is the NAS. The noise level in here is under 32 dB, which is the lowest this will go down to. So that's incredibly quiet. So let's go ahead and turn on the machine real quick. Okay, so right now we're about 2 feet away from the computer, and also, by the way, there is no side panel on the machine, so it'll be a little bit quieter with the side panel on. Okay, I wanted you to get that ambient noise again. So let me put the side panel on real quick. And now with the side panel on, wow, a lot more quiet. Alright, so let's do some testing and then we'll come back to the noise level. Since we will be doing noise testing, we're also going to be doing thermal testing. Now, one very important thing about thermal testing is the ambient temperature is incredibly important to the temperature inside of the PC. If your temperature in your house or in your room is hot, the inside of your PC is going to be hotter. The ambient temperature in my house is 63 degrees Fahrenheit, which converts to about 18 degrees Celsius. The cooler your house is, or the ambient temperature around your PC, the cooler the inside of your PC will be as well. On most PCs, the fans are going to be on the front of the case. This one you have the glass or plastic, whatever material this is, kind of irrelevant. On this particular case though, the fans are going to be right over here on the side. These fans are going to be sucking air in. They're the reverse type of fans, so they're sucking air in. Now there is a filter here to keep it from pulling in dust and everything, which will also affect how much cool air comes in. I think it's better to have no dust come in. So just my 2 cents on that. Regardless on that, so far it's cooling incredibly well. The other place that it's going to be pulling air from is down here and up front at the very bottom. Then down here is just sucking cool air in, and there is a fan over here on the bottom of the case, like those rear fans, sucking cool air from down here in through the case and blowing it up under the video card, helping to keep the overall system and the video card cool. So the temperature of this over here, which is going to be where it's pulling cool air from, is about 20.5 degrees. You can see that there. That's incredibly cool. And then the other place is going to be along the back over here, and that temperature is about 20.7 degrees. So very, very, very cool. The temperature back here is 23.2 degrees. Air coming out is about 3 degrees hotter than it is coming in from the front, which is to be expected. And of course, that's idle. We're going to start off with temperatures on the CPU. And unfortunately, my copy of IDA64 has expired. I need to get a new key on Monday. So we're going to go ahead and start a stress test. One thing to mention, I did move the pump from the CPU optional to the AIO, and then I also made the configuration in the BIOS from the original build till this. That did change, though during testing I didn't notice much of a difference at all. But anyway, so let's go ahead and start it. We're going to start off with half an hour of testing, so let's click start. After more than half an hour of testing, ambient noise level not too bad. Again, we're about 2 feet away, less than 2 feet away. The noise level on the rear of the PC, a little over 65. Not bad at all. We're less than a foot away from the rear fan, which would be the loudest. and along the top, which actually would be the loudest because we have the radiator right up here. About 72 degrees, though we are about 4 inches away from the top of the radiator. And of course, if you're going to put your ear right there, it is going to be incredibly loud. Now, coming up here with the thermals, we're at about 26 degrees. I'm just scanning all of it to see if I find a hotter spot up here. 26 degrees, 27. Then we can see back here along the rear of the system, 25 degrees, just the hot air coming out of here. Looks like most of it is being expelled from the ceiling of the case, which of course it would be. That's where the liquid cooling is expelling the heat from. So not too loud and not too hot. So we're going to go ahead and stop that here. The hottest we hit was about 73 degrees, and you can see that right over here was just a quick blip. And again, that's not too bad considering this is a 12900KF processor. So closing out of here. Now we're going to go ahead and stress the GPU. So right now, coming from the rear of the GPU, what, around 23 degrees. Now mind you, we're idle. We're not doing anything graphically intense. So we've been stressing the system now for about 38 minutes, a little bit more than 30 minutes. The hottest the GPU's gotten is around 65 degrees, maybe 66 degrees. That's incredibly awesome, being that we're stressing it 100%. And of course, we're using a 4090, and the system is consuming about 630 watts. The entire system, not just the card, of course. Now, stressing like this, we can see right here along the back, 32 degrees Celsius. And this is the heat coming off of the GPU. Now mind you, we're not directly on the GPU, but that is the heat expelling from the card. So not bad. And then the heat expelling from the rear of the system is about 38 degrees. Now, one of the explanations for that is that we have this fan blowing air up into the video card, and we can see all around here the fins, they're expelling the heat out into the system. So this is helping the air come out of here and then getting expelled by the radiators up here. And then of course, cool air coming in from the front/side of the case right along here. Those two fans blowing air in, which of course is going over here, taking as cool air from the bottom, coming up through here, then expelling from the rear of the card. So all of the hot air is coming out entirely in the system, which explains why there is more heat coming out of the rear of the system than the GPU itself. So that's not bad at all. The noise level, we're about a foot away. Let's just say 50 dB. So that's not loud at all. We're again about a foot away from the side of the system. Now about a foot away from the GPU. Let's say another 55 dB, so not incredibly loud. Then coming up behind the system on the rear fan, anywhere between 50 something and 60 something dB. So as the stress builds up on the system, that fan is going to get louder because it is controlled by PWM. So I've been testing with this filter on, which is going to block a little airflow being exhausted from the top of the case. And that's also going to make things a little tiny bit hotter. because not only is it blocking air, but this is capturing some of that air, heating itself up. The way you're going to want to do it at home, because this is exhausting air, is to unscrew this back here, slide it out so that right here you have the radiator. Now mind you, it's not as pretty as that, but this is a lot more efficient than that. So like this, again, you're blocking airflow, and like this, you're letting all the air come out. You're letting the system get as cool as it possibly can with what it has already. With the system on, along the rear of the system, I'm going to remove the rear panel. Okay, now one of the things also blocking airflow is a filter on the side fan, but I would say that filter is needed because that's sucking air into the system with these reverse fans, where normally a fan like this would be blowing out. These are reversed. This is sucking air in, cool air into the system. So I would say keep that filter on, that way you don't get any dust along here. Now the reason I mentioned the back, aside from that filter, is you don't have a lot of room back here to hide cable. So when you put the side panel on, depending on how you cable manage, I think I do a pretty decent job. You're going to have a little bit of a bulge. I had to lay it on its side, pushing it down to slide it in, and then to screw it in the back for it to work. That's a common occurrence, but something definitely I want to let you know. Regardless of that, you have plenty of space for storage, 2 SSDs here, and then 2 drives here, 4 drives in total. It's not the most, but it's definitely not the least. I would say this is nice. And then with the built-in ARGB and fan controller hub right up here. The engineering sample I have does have some issues with this controller, but as you can see, the issues aren't too bad as everything's working correctly. When you receive the retail version, if you bought it, the issues would already be worked out. You would have the final version. Again, this is an engineering sample. Now, one of the other things that bugs me about this case, though it is a trend, is there's only 2 USB ports. Mind you, they have a USB Type-C, which actually does work, but still, only 2 USB ports. I feel in this day and age, take advantage of the USB 2.0 ports so that you can have 4 ports. And then mind you, I completely understand that motherboards might only have 1 USB 3.0 header, but typically they have at least 1 USB 2.0 header, if not 2. So pop in 2 more of those. It'll help a ton. Few things I love about this case is that 45-degree angle they put on the side of the case over here that allows you to fit, for example, the ATX 24 pin, the USB Type-C, the USB 3.0, any kind of cable you can fit in there. And then in this case, also the cable mod cable for the 4090, so it lends itself to great cable management. The other thing I loved is this fan down here. This fan not only provides additional airflow to the video card, but coming out, you can see it provides additional airflow throughout the case. Since heat is going to come out through the side of the video card here, it helps push air up and then out over here, and then through the rear, of course, if you don't have fans along the top. I love this hub over here that is not only for your fans, so you can put your fans here, PWM controlled, to a single fan header on the board, but then you also have ARGB as well. So it controls these 2 fans, the fan at the bottom and the rear fan. Then of course, if you wanted to add another one in there as well for ARGB and fan alike. Now down here, you have space for additional storage, and your power supply actually fits in here. They give you 2 spots here, so you can either put it right here, or you notice you can move the entire box one way over here, but then of course you're going to run into some cables over here. So right here is the best option. Now unfortunately, they don't have additional trays for 2.5-inch drives, so you need to either use 2 3.5-inch drives there, or get 2 trays to convert it from a 3.5 to a 2.5. Over here, they have 2 trays for 2 2.5s, be it mechanical or SSDs like that. This is the rear side of those 45-degree angle grommets or cutouts. So you can see the rear side, how I fit the ATX 24 pin. Then right over here, they have another hole, which I didn't use in this build, but surely you can use in other builds. And then these 2 holes over here, where I fit a ton of cables through. And because I have the radiator up there, almost completely hidden, mind you, this big strand of cables, but it's because of the very odd EVGA liquid cooling unit, which is actually awesome, but it's just a little tiny bit awkward. The front of the case has this glass front panel, or I don't think it's glass, kind of plastic, but so there is no fans up here. You do have to rely on those side fans, but it works out great. There is plenty of room in the case for this video card. Now mind you, this will have to bend a little tiny bit. This does hit the glass, but as we already know, it doesn't really cause any issue unless you do have a bad cable. And as you saw in this video, the card stays incredibly cool, not only because of those fans and the fans on the card, but that fan helps a ton as well as this exhaust up here and along the rear. The top up here does have a filter for the radiator, but because it's exhaust, I would recommend to just remove that filter and just have your bare radiator sticking out like that. That way heat comes out quicker and less resistant. I still feel like they could have added 2 more USB ports, maybe USB 2.0. An additional 2 USB 3.0s would have caused an additional header on the motherboard, and not everybody has that. So most people have at least one free USB 2.0 port. They could have used that there. It's nice that they included a USB Type-C and of course the front panel audio. Over here they give you the option for ARGB if you don't have RGB on your motherboard, and of course the power button with the power light and the HD activity light. Along the rear here, nothing really different. Pretty standard features. Along the bottom here, they give you a filter here that you can remove and wash for the bottom of your power supply, so that you don't suck in any dust or anything along those lines. Then over here is where I was saying that you can move the tray for the hard drives, move it back 1 notch here, about 1 inch, but I would say leave it as far as possible from the rear for your cables. The feet add an additional, almost an entire inch of space, breathing space for your power supply to breathe, so that's always welcome here, to cut down on vibration and so that you don't push it over. Maybe if you have a dog, a cat, a kid maybe that pushes it over, rubberized over here so that it doesn't slip on top of the table. Now this fan is pretty cool because you may not realize it, but a lot of cases have a fan down here that you could put, but it's not really pulling air from anywhere. Now right down here, this is open air, so it's pulling cool air from the sides over here, sucking in, while there isn't a filter here. This is kind of a mesh material, so on its own it's a filter, and then that same filter is along the front right over here. The Montech Sky 2 to me is an awesome case. It looks beautiful, it has amazing acoustics and amazing thermals, and for under $100 you can't go wrong. It comes complete with 4 RGB lights, 2 along the sides, 1 along the bottom, and then 1 along the rear. Then perfect cutouts just about everywhere so that you can fit cables to give yourself the most room for cabling. It has a decent amount of options for storage, though it could use some more. It could use 2 additional USB ports, be it USB 2.0 or 3.0, but I get that would make things cost a little bit more. They really did put a lot of thought into this case. The only thing to me that really kind of makes it hurt a little bit is the space in the back. You can't fit a whole lot of cables without getting some bulge in there. All in all, I think it is an awesome case for an awesome price. You can't go wrong with the Montech Sky 2. This is Iggy with ThisBytesForYou out. See you guys.